I'm sure we'll get a Vegas gig.
Not being entertaining is not always a problem.
Well,
I think a post-charter barbecue somewhere needs to happen.
Agree, definitely.
All right, are we back? Lauren, are we back on?
You are back on, and I'm just trying to move over Peter Gelderman so that we can have the attorney on while you guys talk about any other changes you want to make to the draft.
Welcome, Peter.
Hello, Pete.
There I go.
Hey, Peter.
Hey. So I want to summarize and let's make sure I got them. One thought I had was Fillmore's position on regulations. I'd like to maybe revisit the language of 6 and just make sure we make it clear they can put in policies. I thought Dennis's point about revisiting the "and" in that section, which is really important, it's well worth our time to stare at. And there was a third. What else am I missing, Lauren?
The appointive boards, we have to go back and fix
Oh,
the
yeah, the
language between
thing.
8.1, 9.3, 9.4.
Yeah, I actually think it works, but it's confusing.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I read it one way. I thought, well, that's fine. Then I read it another way. Like, unless someone knows what we're trying to do, they won't have any idea. So I think probably all 3 of those do need a change.
Well, I guess the question is, should all boards and commissions be appointed by the Board of Selectmen as opposed to a town meeting, created and appointed?
Well, why don't we handle that last for a second?
Yeah.
The other 2.
Okay.
So why don't we zip up to which one do you want to do first, Lauren? Where are you in the document? I'm going to swallow my tongue.
I'm pulling us into the first selectman.
Yeah.
Powers.
Maybe I'll get there.
Yep.
Is it
There we go.
4.2?
There we go.
Yeah.
4.2.1. There we go.
It is a very important section. We should probably get it right.
Mhm. Yeah, so the suggestion was to change this one to "and" instead of "or."
Peter, any issue on that from a
Yeah.
legal standpoint?
I'm just reading through exactly what was the comment.
Well, that the "or" itself was incorrect. You are those things, or you delegate, or you delegate it. And maybe the answer is you always are those things. You're the chief executive and you are the chief administrative officer, but you also oversee any
Right.
duties of those positions that you delegated.
So
Joe,
delegated. Right.
I think the spirit was there when we were going through this, but I think that the language that Dennis brought out is true. I think if it said, of the town, or if you delegate, then you will oversee. But, just for to be succinct and is sufficient there.
I wonder if it might not be clearer to say A, be the chief executive and administrative officer of the town, period. B, oversee any duties of those positions that you delegate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sorry, I'm making espresso.
All right, send some over here. Come on, we all need a little bit.
Well, is these positions clear? I mean, I know it's referring to A, but oversee the duties of chief administrative officer and chief executive. If I don't think the intent, though, was to delegate the office of chief executive or chief administrative officer to anybody. It was to delegate certain jobs that might be delegated to somebody that would fall under the chief executive's power.
Well, it says oversee any duties that may be
Well-
delegated. Maybe you would say oversee any duties if delegated.
That's a good point, but unfortunately, like if unless we parse that out, duties could mean all of the duties. That's a lot of duty.
And if it does, and the person decides to delegate it all out, then I would assume there would be a significant salary needed for that delegation that would have to be approved both on the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance side.
Well, not necessarily. Why don't you just have a second sentence that says the chief executive, the first selectman shall have the ability to delegate duties and you could say to personnel as required. I mean, just so it's clear that the first selectman has the right to delegate some duties to third persons, to other people.
But
I
they're
don't know if
not
the
as
right word is
required.
personnel, but isn't that what it's really trying to say? Just to
No.
give the first selectman the right?
Bob,
Right,
go-
to organize their government.
hold on, let's go with, Bob was trying to get something, was trying to say
I'm
something.
just saying you're not required to delegate.
No. Have the ability. They
Okay.
may.
I think may.
And Peter, do you have to say anything around the
May
fact that they
delegate
still have
duties
the
to-
responsibility for those duties that they did delegate? Do we have to say something along that or no?
Well, can
Is that
I
implied?
Can I suggest something? Just take it out. Because the first selectman can delegate duties to people and does it all the time. Can say to Lauren, do something that might be, within the purview of the first selectman. I think you can I'm not sure the charter needs.
Well, we had a problem with this, Pete, where and part of that had to do with the unfortunate half language of town administrator, which confused people. But can I suggest that maybe one way to approach this with B is not have the ability to delegate, because you're right, like, what are you giving them? That's what they do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any of those employees. Instead, maybe it is to manage I'd like to be able to say something like to set up town government, to create a managerial team and never mind. I hate my own sentence.
Well, that's kind of what's in C, right? Be responsible for the organizational structure and reporting relationships among the town's current and future employees.
Yeah. And so maybe then B is just simpler. It's manage any employees. I'd like to say manage any employees working in the execution of his or her office, right? That's kind of what I'd like to be able to say. I'm in office. I'm going to manage the people that are going to help me out.
All right, but what's the definition of a chief executive and chief administrative officer? Isn't that implied in that title? Isn't that what a chief executive does?
Yeah.
Do we have a definition within the charter?
No,
Right.
no, but not in the charter, we don't, but but I think it's a chief executive and administrative officer is in charge of employees within town hall
Could
and
we,
manages department heads. And I'm not sure that you need to have a provision that allows the chief executive to delegate duties to somebody.
except we had a problem with it.
Right. In the past, we've had a problem in this town with that issue. And that's why we wanted to put it in to say, yes, they can delegate. Period, end of sentence.
Oh, by the way, maybe we can just do it this way. Under C, be responsible for the organizational structure, comma, reporting relationships, comma, and and scope of authority, comma, among the town's current and future employees. And then Pete, maybe you can look at scope of authority and see if that's a bad phrase.
Yeah, do you need to say current and future? Can you just say among the town, among town employees?
Why not? You're right. Be responsible for the organizational structure, reporting relationship, and scope of authority among of the town-
Rather than among.
Yeah,
of scope of authority among.
Oh,
yeah. And I would just say of town employees, not town's employees, town employees.
Is there a better phrase than scope of authority? Position authority, job functions,
Scope of responsibility.
scope of responsibility.
That sounds good, yeah.
Yeah, I think that does it. It's a little less awkward.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it solves Dennis's question because it makes it clear there's the first selectman and their employees.
I think
Good.
for is a better word than of, I would think.
Or be responsible for, well, you're responsible for the organization of for reporting relationship and for the scope of responsibilities.
Involving town employees, related to town
Involving.
employees, involving or related to town employees.
It's the structure of the employees, reporting relationship of the employees, and scope of responsibility for the employee. I think of is okay.
Okay.
I agree.
I think so.
Organizational structure of employees, yeah, but it's not worth arguing about. Right?
Yeah, because that would be like employee relationships.
Yeah.
Reporting relation.
It's clear enough. I think people are going to know what we're saying.
I mean, we could say reporting structure. Oh, we already have reporting relationships. I think it's okay.
I love when you get to the phase of things.
I'm still in my office. It's 8 o'clock. You know, what do you want? Been at it since noon. All right. You want to do the Board of Finance piece first, and then we'll go to the boards, because I think that's longer.
Yeah,
I just, what I was thinking of specifically, so to Fillmore's point, there shall be a Board of Finance consisting of 7 members for any one party, blah, blah, terms shall be staggered. For the charter review, where's their powers? You scroll down a little bit. Why am I not seeing the language of the reporting? Oh, because I'm looking at a different document. Hold on. Right.
There's a top sentence talks about duties, responsibilities, and powers provided for in the general statutes, and specifically oversee the budget process.
Yeah, so where is, here it is. All right, so what I was thinking of specifically was 6.4. We say, oh, you know, what are the powers of the board? We say, review the expenditures of the town agencies, prescribe periodic reports. Do we want to include, you know, set policies to guide the Board of Finance as a D? Or include that within that? Because it's not
Yeah.
regulations and it says guide.
so we could say implement policies within the jurisdiction, you know what I mean? We could put it here.
Let me go back to you. I had to go back to Word.
Sorry.
I like the terminology you just used.
Policies.
Set
and-
policies, implement policies that guide the board.
Yeah, help guide the Board of Finance, because one of our concerns with I know this is largely my concern, regulations, the way it was written was anybody.
Right.
So I think this kind of, and this sort of addresses Fillmore's continuity issue. So if you're a board, you can write down policies. You could do that today, but this way we make it explicit.
I want to say create and implement policies that
Yeah.
guide,
Sure.
just,
That's,
Well, do we want to say create, implement, and abolish policies so they can, just for completeness? Because they might find,
Modify.
6 years from now, that a policy doesn't work and they want to get rid of it.
Yeah, sure.
say modify rather than,
Create and modify policies. Yeah, because what's the difference in create and implement anyway?
well, they have to exist
oh,
before
there's
you
a
can
difference.
implement.
Yeah, it's,
We do ordain and establish.
yeah. Yeah, they
So
can
do we-
create their
do we-
own operational policies.
Yeah. I mean, that's right.
Good.
Okay,
All right. So, that-
whizzing right through this stuff.
so let's then unpack the whatever the 8.3 discontinuity.
Unpack, you're sounding postmodern there, Joe.
8.1. Sorry?
You're saying you're sounding postmodern. You want to unpack the, one second.
We're going to go and set this objective. We'll form a team so we can collaborate our way through it.
We'll circle back on the low-hanging fruit.
And we've all had that meeting.
Mm.
Okay,
All right.
now we're getting punchy.
Oh, but it's okay though, because if you look at the attendees, we have now the return of what is, like the 10th player of the team has appeared. So
And I forgot to mention, he or she apologized for missing out on the earlier part.
I was, just so you know, I checked the list and was a wee bit disappointed.
Yeah, and you know. Shame.
Okay. There shall be permanent boards and committees established by ordinance.
If we just removed established by ordinance, doesn't that fix everything?
It does, or you could say as established by ordinance or by the Board of Select.
Well,
Eliminating it works too.
Yeah,
I-
I think,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, to my mind, maybe we do it established by ordinance with the applicable general statute or permanent commissions as established by 9394. I mean, like, do we care? Permanent commissions, we wanted to go to town meeting. And I don't think that's a bad impulse.
Well, hold on. So permanent boards and commissions are established by ordinance right now, or have been in the past, right? That's what we're saying. Because-
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag. So
So-
what we want to do is say, we want to establish a permanent by ordinance. And that's requires a public hearing, but we said that we wanted to set the bar a little higher to remove an actual permanent board and commission. That a town meeting, and if people don't care, then they're not going to show up and the Board of Selectmen is going to approve it anyway, right? Because that's how it works.
Well, so let's actually go to the piece. If we're creating a permanent commission,
Mhm.
do we want a town meeting? If we're gonna make a new one right now, do we want a town meeting?
I remember, no, because I think
No,
once again, that increases the number of town meetings. The town meeting should be something.
Well, if you're gonna create a permanent commission, why not?
I don't think that rises to the level of the town meeting.
Lauren, did we have any reason why we put the town meeting stuff in? Do you remember?
The town meeting has been there. That's what was in the charter.
Right.
So I think in order to clarify the disconnect between these sections is you either have to change 8.1 to say what it said before, that the charge of the commission for the permanent border commission would be an ordinance, or keep that the way it is and then change 9.3 and 9.4, depending on what you want to do. If we want to say that creation doesn't require a town meeting, then we would say, maybe what we would say established by ordinance here, instead of saying maybe created by town meeting.
So I'd like to, having given this a little bit of thought and extra caffeine, I'd like to argue for keeping the town meeting. And here's why. Joan and I are scheming selectmen. We're sitting on our board, and we're really ticked off at that negative recommendation from the Conservation Commission. So you know what? We go ahead and wipe them out. And particularly since we've de-charterized permanent commissions, you know what we don't like? The Planning and Zoning Commission. We pick one.
That's why, no, I think the abolishment should absolutely be a town meeting. I just don't think the creation.
Oh, so hold on. No, let me play it the other way around. You know what we want? Joan and I are really ticked off. So we're going to create the Oversight Review Commission that now has to have all land use applications referred to before they go to the zoners, or pick another group, or the permanent budget position. I'd like to, the creation of commissions and other pieces is, in our town, our history has been all good, but you can create and abolish them for bad reasons too. It just seems to me that if we go at the cost of a town meeting for a permanent commission, and if nobody cares, that's probably a good sign. But it does give a choke point if something's being done for weird reasons. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think that commissions, they do have some power in our town.
Yeah.
And kind of like the way agencies can kind of run amok. I think it'd be much better that it's put before people in the town meeting. So I'm of the mind of where Joe is right now. But I see where you're coming from, Joan. I know one of the objectives was to try to reduce town meetings, but I don't think we're going out there and creating a whole slew of commissions anyway. So it probably wouldn't add that many more to it. But I do think it'd be a good thing to have that as oversight.
So we go back to, then I think then we have to go to town meeting on the prior thing then.
On which prior thing?
There shall exist permanent boards and
8.1.
commissions, 8.1, as established by ordinance and approved by town, and approved by town meeting.
There shall exist boards and commissions as established by this charter and Connecticut general statute, period. Bam.
But what
Why
about
aren't
the
we doing it?
currently existing ones? I think we've got to speak to that. That was the whole point of getting the ordinances.
So
Yeah, we have to put something in that still saves the ones that we took out of the charter and didn't go to a town meeting.
And
were
then
established by
abolish
charter
the ones that no longer even done anymore.
yeah, so so why not just put in a savings figure? Upon enactment of this charter, the following commissions, previously in the charter, shall be considered permanent commissions.
But there's a bunch of commissions that are not, and boards and committees that are not in this charter that are existing and were created.
How about a sentence that just says, any permanent board or commission not in existence on the date of this charter revision shall be established by the town meeting, if that's what you want to do.
There you go.
Yeah. Can't that be that all boards and commissions created after the enactment of this charter shall be?
Yep, same thing. Yep.
Yeah, that way we just get rid of the weird
It's
negative.
more positive. Yep.
I'm a positive guy, Pete. Yeah.
Okay, do we want to, and the ones that exist should be done through a ordinance so that there is there's some information there because it's there. Lauren, describe what is now happening with the boards and commissions. There's some that have information out there. There's some that's, you know, as far as charge and number of people and things like that.
So could we just include a saving? I'm sorry to front run you, Lauren, but can we just include a saving section 8.1.a? All boards and commissions formally mentioned in this charter shall continue for a period of 12 months following this charter's enactment.
So we're going to have to bring all the current ones to town meeting then?
Yeah,
That's
you don't want to do that.
planning and zoning commissions. And I mean, you're going to have applications pending in front of these boards and commissions.
Right. So
Well, planning and zoning is still in the charter. We're not taking
Right.
that out.
no, but there's other things. Well, okay.
Well, let's just change that. So 8.1.a, all boards and commissions formally mentioned in this charter shall continue until reauthorized by the Board of Selectmen by ordinance.
Yeah, not formally mentioned in this charter because they're not all in the charter. That was one of the problems.
Yeah,
If they're not in the
That's-
charter, then what are we doing? Like, that's not for us.
they were
Okay.
established by town meeting after this charter was enacted.
Right.
But they're not in this charter.
Because this charter is 15 years old, but they're still correctly enacted. So we just have to not reference the fact that anything was in this charter.
All right, so we then just make.
And I
this-
like to, this is good. All permanent boards and commissions in effect prior to this charter shall continue until reauthorized by the Board of Selectmen in ordinance.
Period.
So if nothing happens, they just continue.
Right.
So,
They discontinue, right? So if they decide not to do an ordinance for
but what does it
the
mean?
landscape committee, because they've never met in the last, 6 years, then they die off.
Yeah, but if the Board of Selectmen or an ordinance hasn't done anything, it just continues to exist. I'm not sure that sentence has any meaning.
Well, it means then that the charter, well, first of all, it means it's allowing them to be reauthorized or reconstituted by ordinance. So if they want to go and destroy it or change it, they can, well, yeah.
No, reauthorized by ordinance within 12 months of this charter taking effect.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
you have to say, if no ordinance is done, then that board or commission no longer.
Or maybe a little bit different. Maybe any commission existing prior to this charter can be reauthorized or disbanded by ordinance.
Well, but if it's neither, it continues to exist.
Yeah, so what? That's up to the Board of Selectmen. It's not our problem.
Okay, and should we take out the word permanent? Because do we really mean permanent or any board or commission?
Any,
No, yeah, for 8.1a, we don't mean any. For which ones require a town meeting, we mean permanent. You should be able to, you don't need to create a temporary or an ad hoc commission. You shouldn't have a town meeting. It's only the
Okay,
permanent
let's, any board or commission, I think what we're trying, to me, the goal was to get the current ones in ordinance by within a year of this. And if there wasn't an ordinance, then they would fall off. They wouldn't continue to exist.
Permanent ones,
Permanent ones, right?
like,
They need to be reauthorized unless they're
like the Conservation Commission.
correct. But I think they're staying in here.
Right.
I hate the fact that we're spending so much thought into this when if this charter lasts for 10 more years, it's only 1/10 of its time, or it's just a small thing.
Yeah, so Joan, I don't know that I actually care whether or not the Board of Selectmen reauthorizes it or if they want to kill it. That's their problem. I think for us doing the charter, to my mind, if they're creating a new permanent commission, The town meeting's not a big deal. If they're creating a non-permanent commission, they can do it by ordinance. And anything that used to be in the charter that's not anymore gets to continue and they can figure it out. And we
I like if they don't do it by ordinance, then they will automatically abolish.
It's up to them.
Because what if they don't do any ordinances and people just keep going on and there's no definition whatsoever for these boards and commissions? Then we're back in the same craziness.
We're
Well,
not. We're the Charter Review Commission. We're fine. The stuff that's off.
But we're supposed to be giving direction on how this is done. So that's my point. It's like, we've got a mishmash that people came to us and said, we want to kind of clean it up a little bit. And I think that there's plans on X number of things, and these ones will have more definition so that if you become a member of this board and commission, you'll be able to look, here's your charge, here's the number of people, here's how the terms are going to be. Here's all this information for those 300 volunteers that are on these boards and commissions. And I do feel that it is important to either get it into a ordinance or it's not there any longer.
Luckily, if only we had a senior administrative person with us on the Charter Review who will draft all those ordinances for the Board of Selectmen. I mean, Lauren, aren't you just going to give them a list and stuff to enact all at once?
Sure.
So I look, it's a small, but I just don't understand why the charter is running stuff out of town after 12 months. I mean, I get it. I just don't want to have an idea where a commission's sitting. See, I'm worried about the other thing. I don't care if business as usual keeps going on for a while till they clean it up. What I really wouldn't want is to have some town organ, people showing up to their meetings like they always have, nobody realizing that they didn't have authority. And now we have a mess. I'm more worried about that than having sloppiness that Lauren and the group can clean up over time.
I think that I think there already is a lot of sloppiness here. There's groups, there's a commission that has a sub commissions that aren't even in their charge. There's all sorts of things that need to be cleaned up. And I think, if you want to give them 24 months, give them 24 months. But I think somewhere along the way that there needs.
Yeah, maybe it's just not our problem.
Can I make a suggestion, since maybe we sleep on it tonight and we have some time set aside tomorrow for another meeting? Let's see if we come up with fresh thoughts.
Because I think the Board of Selectmen was being, yeah. Or split the difference and go 18 months. But I think that somewhere along the way, we've removed a lot of definition from this charter that isn't anywhere. And we have. So that's the concern I've got. So that definition has to get into place somewhere through ordinance. And this is part of the position of the Board of Selectmen to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's for them. We are meeting tomorrow at 9. So if otherwise we could agree on this and just say go. So if you like, but otherwise I'm happy to meet at 9 as well.
I can meet at 9.
All
We
right.
should meet at 9.
All right. We will meet at
sleep on it.
we will adjourn and meet at 9. Lauren, if you will magically in your dreams come up with the solution for this, that would be wonderful. And then we will like to move that one out.
Good thinking, Joe.
That should be our last meeting before the Board of Selectmen at some point in time. Right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I will just say one other thing, Joe. I think you guys need to talk about it at 9 o'clock tomorrow. The changes to 10.1.3 emergency action that you and I reviewed with the attorneys without the board, without the committee. So I had sent the notes and a draft over and asked everybody to read that this week before the meeting. But I do think you should probably have a conversation about that before you vote on the document to go to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. All right. So we will pick up those 2 items at 9.
Perfect.
All right, everybody. I will see you all in the morning.
In 12 hours.
morning.
Okay, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep.